besties, Clarke here. Alana is totally in this episode, but we forgot that we have intro music now, and we didn't really film a proper intro where we can use our intro music. So, hi besties, I'm Clarke. I'm Alana, and this is Bestie Energy.
And welcome to the 4th episode of our Bestie Energy podcast. I'm Alana.
And I am Clarke. We're so happy that you all are back again.
Yes, thank you for joining us. If you don't know who we are, why we're talking, go watch our first 3 episodes. And maybe you'll know what we're talking about. But
we're at bestieenergythepod on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok now.
Yes.
And we are also on Spotify, which I hope you're listening to us there. And if you are listening to us on Spotify or any of these other places, you need to go join our Patreon if you want episodes early and ad-free. It is patreon.com/bestierebellion.
And you get bonus episodes. Maybe we'll post bloopers there at some point.
We have posted bloopers there.
Yes,
they're
maybe
good.
Some more, though, because I just did a really funny one.
She did. She totally screwed up the intro.
So I just told a story, actually, from our last episode about Cutzulin, who was a Mongolian warrior princess. So if you haven't heard that one, go back, watch that one. But here we're actually going to be hearing a story from Clarke.
And we forgot to say what Bestie Energy is.
Yeah, let's talk about what Bestie Energy is.
Like, what are Bestie Energy stories? Like, I feel like we're really kind of carving out what our stories are. And they seem to be like these forgotten, uplifting stories from history.
Yes.
That are just, like when you think Bestie Energy, like, we're thinking like cool, interesting, uplifting stories, cool people doing cool things.
Yes, to maybe motivate other people, to bring us the spotlight back to them too, because a lot of these stories were just forgotten.
No, exactly. And it's just highlighting like good things that have happened. So that we're, like, I feel like so many podcasts talk about like death, destruction, terrible, awful.
Yes, there's horrible things in the world every day, all the time. We know,
and we're tired of it. Yeah. So we just wanted to put out something
trying to bring some positivity to the world. So if you love that and you like that, please join our Patreon and share stories with us too. Comment stories that you have that are Bestie Energy, and we'd love to share them.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. All right, so my Bestie Energy story today. There's some rough patches.
As there usually is with a good story.
There is. There's some devastation and some sadness in my story today. Do you know about the relationship between the Irish and the indigenous population in the United States?
Not at all.
Did you know that they are besties?
Irish and the indigenous population here?
Most specifically, and I looked up this pronunciation. It could be incorrect, but I got this from a page that is all about preserving the language. Okay. But so if I pronounce it wrong, I'm very sorry. But the Choctaw nation. Okay. The Choctaw tribe. And so it's spelled Choctaw. So I always thought it was like Choctaw. Yeah. But like I found this page that was like it was on Facebook, and it's all about preserving their language. And I listened to it over and over and over, and it's not so much like Choctaw, it's like Choctaw is what it sounded like. Okay. So I hope I'm saying that right, guys. I practiced it a million times. And so if I'm mispronouncing it, I'm really, really sorry. But yeah, no, specifically, there is a very positive bestie relationship between the Choctaw tribe and the Irish.
I had no idea. Yeah. Like, that still goes on today?
It does.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and it started in 1847.
Okay, that was quite a while ago.
It was indeed quite a while ago. So what do you know, and I'm reading off my phone, guys, so if you're watching this on YouTube, sorry, but what do you know about the Trail of Tears?
I don't know anything, actually.
Nothing at all? No. Nothing comes to mind?
No, history failed me, sorry. No.
You've really never heard of the Trail of Tears?
No.
Okay. In the year 1830, our lovely president, Andrew Jackson, signed into law the Indian Removal Act. Can you imagine what that might have been about?
Just completely removing all indigenous culture and population as a whole?
Sort of. So basically what they did, so at that point in time, the United States was expanding westward. Yeah. And they decided that everything everything east of like the Mississippi River-ish was theirs.
Oh, so they're just evacuating everybody.
They
no,
literally
I have heard
forced
about this.
everybody out.
Yes, no, I definitely have. I just didn't know like the name.
Yeah, it was called the Trail of Tears.
Yeah.
And so basically this affected multiple tribes, tens of thousands of people.
Just displaced.
And it went on all the way into the 1900s.
Yeah. I don't know if this is, I mean, I'm assuming it's along the same period, but I know in like Oklahoma, there was like a cutout, like a square of where indigenous people were allowed to go, where they were given. Yeah, that's where.
Yeah. So they were basically forced to move from the south and the southeast to the west. And at that time, Oklahoma was considered west.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people did end up in Oklahoma. And the very first tribe to be forced to move was the Choctaw tribe.
Wow.
And what really sucks about this, I mean, all of it sucks, but the Choctaw tribe was literally one of the first tribes to ally themselves with European colonizers.
Oh, okay.
And so
sounds like a survival strategy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they had been cooperating for decades, if not centuries. And they were and are very excellent agriculturists. Okay. So they were farmers. They were not nomadic. And so they were very much involved with like trading with the colonizers. Absolutely. And like, you know, and so they really got stabbed in the back.
Yeah, no, clearly, because they're like doing everything they can to keep things peaceful, and then it just gets thrown in their face.
And before, and in the sorry, I'm stuttering. In the 1820s, before the Indian Removal Act was signed into law in 1830, they were already being forced off their lands. I mean, obviously that had been happening since the colonizers got here, but they were being forced off their lands, and in the 1820s, they had ceded, I think, 25,000 acres. And were being forced away. And I'm sorry, I should have said this, but hang on, let me look at my notes real quick. But so their original homeland was in modern day southern Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama.
Okay. Quite a big area.
And so that's the area that they were being forced out of. In the modern day, there are actually 2 Choctaw tribes because they were split.
Yeah.
Because the larger portion was forced into the west, but there was some 6,000 people who refused to go.
Wow.
And you can imagine, I mean, in southern Mississippi, you can imagine that their lives must have been absolute hell.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, seriously, I can't imagine how scary it must have been, first of all, to just say no and not know what's going to happen to you.
And then everything I'm sure that's happened in the decades since in southern Mississippi. And you've been told to leave this land and you're refusing.
Well, then it's like you got to think about it. If you have family, if you have kids, if you have older people you're looking after, are you really going to say no and like try to fight? I try to keep it as peaceful as you can, which it sounds like they did.
Well, and I think it's a completely valid choice to leave, and I think it's a completely valid choice to stay.
Absolutely.
Like, I honor everybody and the choices that they made.
Yeah. How horrible, though, to just be like, get out of here.
Yeah, get out. So in the modern day, in Oklahoma, the Choctaw Nation sorry, I keep saying the O and wanting to say aw.
Yeah.
But the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma has about 200,000 members today, while the Mississippi Band has about 11,000. So if you think that 6,000 stayed, and in the modern day there's 11,000.
That shows you, like,
it was a bad time.
Yeah.
They've had a bad time. Hey besties, Clarke here. I know, ads, ew, but I wanted to plug our Patreon for you guys again. Did you know that if you sign up for our Patreon at www.patreon.com/bestierebellion, you get an extra bonus episode every single month, and you also get every episode of Bestie Energy early and ad-free. We also post bloopers on there from when we film our TikTok videos and when we film our podcast episodes. It's a really good time. And we also do a Zoom meeting live every month with all of our awesome patrons if you want to join. So go head on over there, check it out. It's a good vibe. It's a good time. Thanks, besties. Bye.
Wow.
So here's what happened. So after Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act into law, there was what is called the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek, which was signed also in 1830 with the Choctaw tribe. And we say, quote unquote, treaty.
Yeah.
But in reality, they were basically told, leave or die.
Yep. There's so many treaties like that in our history of just like, yeah, we'll do this and it'll be peaceful. But it's like, unless you resist, right?
Exactly. So it's like they sign it and we get to put it in our history books as, oh, we all signed a treaty and it was quite fair.
It was quite fair.
It was quite fair. They knew exactly what they were. No. They basically told them. They told them straight up, like, leave or you will be moved. Mm-hmm. Like, we will make you leave.
Well, and in a lot of situations too, even when like nowadays when they're like trying to like buy out like land that was stolen, like Mount Rushmore, and they're like, oh, let's give you some money for your suffering and reparations or whatever. They're like, we don't want money, we just want our land back. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Horrible. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, for real. It's messed up. It's shady. It's not okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, is it okay if I say I am doing an educational series on my TikTok channel that kind of gets into some of this stuff. Yeah. And one of the topics that we're going to be talking about there. So my TikTok channel, much less cheerful than our podcast, but my TikTok channel, Unleashed, we're going to be talking about the Marshall Islands.
Oh,
she knows.
I know.
I've ranted about this.
Yeah, no, I've also watched like a few documentaries about.
But there was a similar quote unquote treaty.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh look, they signed it.
Just completely destroy their agriculture and everything too.
Yeah.
Woo! So go learn about that on her TikTok because there is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, they basically were told to leave or die. So they ultimately gave up over 1 million acres of homeland. 1 million acres.
And that land has now become like...
It's Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama. Yeah.
That's insane. That's a lot of land.
Yeah.
So they just had to evacuate. Land was completely just stolen from them. Pretty much. I imagine everything that they had built on it was either just destroyed or just taken over.
Pretty much. Yeah. And the people that stayed behind, I'm sure they went through absolute hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the chief at the time was Chief George Hawkins. And he was quoted saying, "We go forth sorrowful, knowing that wrong has been done. Wow. Will you extend to us your sympathizing regards until all traces of the disagreeable oppositions are obliterated, and we shall again have confidence in the professions of our white brethren."
So who was this sent to? Did he just write it down, or was it like...
I don't know. I just found the quote.
Wow.
So, and what's interesting to me is that, like, this quote, he's basically saying, like, if you guys can fix your attitudes, we shall again have confidence in the professions of our white brethren.
Yeah.
Like these people were wanting to live peacefully.
Absolutely.
And
we see that time and time again. Yeah.
Yeah. So next thing that happened, the U.S. government promised aid and support to those Choctaw who are moving west. About 15,000 of them went. And again, this lasted into the 1900s. There were several waves of people.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense. There's so many people.
Exactly. There's so many people. It's 1 million acres. You don't just pack up and leave.
Yeah.
So, but the first...
that whole way, too, and traveling, oh my gosh, what a nightmare.
Yeah. So the first wave was in the 1830s, and it was about 15,000 people, and they moved into modern Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The U.S. government promised aid and support to them in moving west. They were supposed to get all the food they needed, wagons, boats to get across rivers and that kind of thing. Basically, the whole move was meant to be facilitated. But of course, that didn't happen.
And I'm assuming, like, when they got there, too, like, there wasn't, already, like, shelter set up for them where there's like, okay, like, this is where you can stay. There's a bed already set up. And no, of course not. They're just
and of course they got the worst possible land.
Right. And it's like, you can't grow anything off of it, I'm sure. It's probably...
Oh, no, but they did.
Oh, they figured it out, I'm sure.
Oh, they did.
Wow.
They did. Wow. They absolutely did. But yeah, so of course that didn't happen. So like I said, about 15,000 people left in the early 1830s. 1/3 of them died on the way.
Oh my gosh, that's so many.
And they died from starvation. They died from sickness. And they also died from murder.
Really?
Because, of course, people wouldn't just let them pass peacefully.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
And so the U.S. government...
That makes so much sense.
The U.S. government did not facilitate them
Clearly.
at all.
Clearly.
At all. It was awful.
What a dangerous conditions. Because like I said before, it's like, okay, you want to stay, but if you have family, like you have kids or elderly people you're trying to look after, you would want to like do the peaceful option and like leave, I guess. But it's like, that's not the peaceful option because you could just be killed along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And they had no, they didn't have the supplies they needed. They're on foot mostly. It was about 500 miles, the Trail of Tears.
Oh my gosh. I really cannot imagine that. And then they're just like finding places, I'm sure, to, get on the side and like camp out and like, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm not sure what time, like what month this was, if it was like super hot or super cold.
It was over a period of several years.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense. But that's horrible.
It was awful.
Like no protection from any of those conditions either.
It's awful. So the ones that did make it to Oklahoma, though, thrived.
Yeah, wow.
Absolutely thrived. They built cotton farms and cattle ranches and became the largest economic power in the quote-unquote Indian territory.
That's impressive.
They set up a tribal government, and they are still self-sufficient and thriving today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just shows you, like, how determined they were. They're like, you're not taking this from me.
No, exactly. No, they made it work.
Oh, yeah.
And every year, they and their descendants honor those lost on the Trail of Tears with a 500-mile bike journey.
Wow.
That people can participate in.
That just gave me chills, actually. That's amazing.
And they go and they educate along the way and that kind of thing. And so, there's this bicycle journey. It's not a race. So I don't want to call it like a bicycle race. It's not like that. It's like, can we call it a bicycle marathon? Is that a thing? I don't really know. But they follow the path of the Trail of Tears and, go over this terrain that their ancestors were forced to walk on and just in commemoration.
No, that sounds like a really great way to remember that every single year and not let that be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, as a reminder, this story is about the relationship between the Choctaw and the Irish.
Yes.
What do you know about the Irish potato famine?
Clearly not a lot.
About as much as I know about Mongolia. Yeah. You guys have to listen to the last
Clearly
episode.
Not a lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot of people were starving. A lot of people were malnourished, trying to survive.
Yep. You know what's really funny is that, like, my whole life I was told that we had Irish ancestors that came over during the famine.
We're Scottish.
It's not true. Like, we're not even Irish.
It's not the same thing.
We do have Irish heritage, but not as much as our Scottish heritage.
I didn't know it's both, but yeah.
But it's weird. We're basically like the UK islands area mutts. We are mutts of that region.
That's funny. to put it simply.
To put it simply. So anyway, the Irish potato famine was called the Great Hunger.
That describes it pretty well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you don't know about it.
No, I'm saying, like, that gives me a good description. I mean, it makes me think about the Great Depression, but with food. It's horrible.
I'm just giving you crap. I'm sorry. Don't hit me.
I know, she's going to flinch. She's like, whoa.
Yeah, no. A lot of times I'll insult Alana and then I duck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, called the Great Hunger, it began in 1845. And there was this disgusting mold, which I did not look up the pronunciation of this. Let me see. Phytophthora.
Okay. I would say.
Infestans, or just P. infestans. It started destroying potato crops.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Totally.
Mm-hmm. It ruined half of the crop in the first year.
And I don't know if it's the same kind, but I know there's like different diseases, I guess, that like plants can get where not only does it ruin the entire plantation, but it also, I was thinking about bananas is why I said plantation.
Oh.
Because there's one that did that to bananas.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, what are you talking about, plantations?
I'm thinking of bananas, but
they don't got plantations in Ireland.
I know that there's like diseases that can come that just like ruin the whole plantation, and then on top of it you can't grow on top of it. So I don't know if it was the same.
Like it ruins the soil. Like it ruins the crop and the soil. Ooh. I don't think this was that situation. Yeah. But it ruined half the crop the first year and 75% of the crop every year after that for 7 years straight.
Can you imagine how scary that would be, just being like a potato farmer or whatever? Just being like, that's how you make your money.
Well, and it wasn't even money. So let me explain the structure of Ireland at this time.
Potatoes.
No.
I'm just kidding.
The political structure of Ireland, little sister. The political structure. Anyway, so Ireland at this time was a colony of Great Britain, of course. So you can imagine it, that wasn't great.
It's not Great Britain.
And it was very much like a land tenant situation.
Oh.
Like if we think that landlords are corrupt now.
Oh yeah, very different.
So 97% of Ireland was owned by either British or Anglo landowners. So the actual indigenous population of Ireland did not own the land.
It's awful.
And the way that it would work, so basically like a farmer and his family would get like a plot of land, and the laws at the time were like completely predatory towards the Irish Catholics or the indigenous population of Ireland. And until 1829, they could not own land.
Wow.
And that did end in 1829. But, 1847, it takes time for those systems to...
Of course, that's going to, like, play into effect a lot.
Like, it's like, just because you can now doesn't mean there's actually a way for you to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's things preventing them, and yeah.
So in 1845, sorry, I said 1847, I meant 1845. In 1845, 97% of the land was owned by these landowners. The land tenure system was extremely predatory. There was no protection given to the tenants. All the protections was given to the landowners. Tenancy was completely quote unquote at will. Like it's kind of like at will employment here, where basically they could evict you from the land at any point in time for any reason.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
That's so scary and stressful.
Mm-hmm. And it was tenant farming. So basically, like the way tenant farming would work is like the landowner would give you like the equipment that you needed to farm, but then they took like the lion's share of the crop.
Right? Yeah. No, it's like you can do this, and then I'm going to take the huge cut of it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So these tenants weren't exactly making money from what they grew. They were growing enough to feed themselves, and then a whole lot of the crop was being taken by the landowners. So if you can imagine, if 75% of the crop is being destroyed, do you think they're telling the tenants, oh, here, keep the remaining 25% to eat?
They're not getting anything to eat. And they're having to continue to work.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're having to give what they're still expected to give. And at that time period, like I said, it was so predatory with the tenant system. And they would basically take like bids on a plot and like give it to the highest bidder. And so a lot of times they had these like terrible agreements with the landowners of like how much they were expected to give them every month. So,
oh my gosh. So then it's like if you're not able, like completely not able to grow that, and they're like, well, you owe it to us.
They would literally just evict you.
Oh my gosh.
You and your whole family. They would just kick you off the land. So during this time, during the 7 years, and like, okay, like if you think about how tiny Ireland is on a map.
Yeah.
In the 7 years of the potato famine, 1 million Irish died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That is the level of the famine. 1 million died, and another 1 million were forced to immigrate from their homeland due to this massive hunger.
That's awful. I truly can't even imagine that.
It was absolutely terrible.
Well, and I know like during while Great Britain occupied that area, like I know there were a lot of protests and things that didn't go too well for the people who lived there and tried to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
I know
a whole other story.
Yeah, I know there was one protest where people were just civilians, like some of them were like teenagers, like 17, and they're just like trying to protest like we would today, and they just get shot. It was horrible.
No, like the Irish were treated absolutely terribly.
Yeah.
So up until 1829, the indigenous Irish population was not allowed to hold elective office.
Wow.
But in 1845, that had started to change. Mm-hmm. So when the famine hit, Irish leaders begged Parliament and Queen Victoria to do something. And so basically what their response was to make corn and grain less expensive. So at the time, because, they were in conflict with the U.S. and a lot of like grain and corn and stuff was obviously shipped from the U.S., they had these massive tariffs on corn and grain, making it insanely expensive.
Yeah.
And so basically they were like, okay, we'll remove the tariffs so that it's not as expensive. But the Irish tenant farmers aren't going out and buying their food.
They're having to grow it.
They grow their food for themselves. Yeah. Like they don't have just like spare change to go out and buy food.
Right. Yeah. That's not, well, and also
that's not helpful.
It doesn't sound like they made income.
Yeah, exactly. That's like me being like, I'm really struggling to afford groceries. And then being like, guess what? We're going to open a new Whole Foods in your area. Great. That doesn't help me.
still need the money to buy
it. Exactly. So, costs of everything was rising at the time. So, like all the other living expenses, as it does in a crisis.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I'm not an economics person. I don't really know why that's a thing.
Supply and demand.
It's terrible. So, like I said, tenant farmers were used to producing their own food, not buying it, and they weren't able to produce enough to feed themselves, so they were starving.
Oh my gosh, and then like the pressure of having to continue to work to like have a shelter. Oh.
So what's really interesting here, and when I say interesting, I mean I'm pissed off about it. Food exports from Ireland, you would expect they would slow down a lot during a huge famine like this, right?
You would. No, they were increasing, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious?
The exports from Ireland increased during this time.
Wow.
So not only were they like, can you please give us a break on the food we're producing for you so that we can eat?
So we can have something. And
they're like, no, you can actually give us more.
So is it because the cost was going up so they were trying to like make more? Like,
no, it's just greed. Just greed.
Oh God.
Just good old fashioned greed like we see today.
Did we see like a lot of people just, say like now, like, but then I guess you just don't have a home, right?
Exactly. No, you would just get evicted.
Right.
So the people that were like, no, we're not going to do with it are the people who immigrated.
Oh, and they immigrated. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 million people left Ireland during this time.
I don't blame them.
But like, can you imagine like the pain? Like you're just like leaving your ancestral homeland.
Yeah.
And you're just forced out.
There's nothing there for you anymore. And even if you did stay, it's like you might not survive. You probably wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful.
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So, how, you may ask, do the Choctaw and the Irish have anything to do with each other?
I'm guessing they're going to come together to support each other through this hard time.
Sort of. Yeah.
Because well, hold on. Because you were saying that they were kicking off like right when they got to Oklahoma and they were like starting to I guess like start what's the word I'm looking for, regain crops and like start to build things again, like where they
were doing good.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. They were doing good, but they weren't doing good in the 1840s.
Yeah,
like they weren't doing good by then.
Yeah.
But basically after the Great Famine hit, the Choctaw felt great empathy for the Irish because obviously they're going through it.
They're like, we get it.
As the result of a colonizing power. The Irish are going through it as a result of a colonizing power.
Yeah.
So they rallied together, the whole tribe rallied together, pulled together $170, which in modern day time is about $5,000, and donated it to Ireland as relief for the Great Famine.
It shows you too, because I always think that there's like two types of people in the world, like people who go through hard things and then they take them and they become a horrible person. They treat other people like crap and they like just hold that within and think everybody just deserves crap. And then there's the type of people who have been through hard things and then they take that and they try to help other people out of those hard things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly. Really like awesome. You develop more empathy for other people. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, they sent them about $5,000 to help them deal with the famine. And that was while they were going through the Trail of Tears.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They sent that.
I'm sorry, I have nothing to say besides just wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, they sent that over in 1847.
Yeah.
For them. Well, the Irish never forgot it.
No.
Because what a massive gesture of kindness, right? So in 2020, when COVID-19 hit, the indigenous population in the U.S. was hit hard. Really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
I think you might remember seeing articles about the Navajo Nation and the Hopi Reservation were like especially hard hit.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So both populations deal with issues like living in a food desert, which a food desert is basically when you don't have a lot of access to food locally, lack of running water, and a lot of things like multi-generational households. So a lot of people in one household. And then there's a prevalence of pre-existing conditions like diabetes.
Yeah.
Which, interesting fact that I didn't know growing up. Because I feel like, especially in the time period when we were kids, I feel like conditions like diabetes were presented as like almost like a failing. Like it's kind of like, oh, well, you got diabetes because, did you know, because, you hear about how like, oh, indigenous populations have a higher prevalence of diabetes.
Oh, they're more likely to get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a much higher prevalence of diabetes. And that is something that can develop because your population in the past was starved. Starvation changes your genes and your body's response to food, making a population have a much higher prevalence or likelihood of developing diabetes.
That makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it really does like change your genes, not only in that like physical aspect, but also like mental trauma will change your genes too.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Exactly. So that's something that I didn't know growing up. But so
I had no idea.
There's a much higher prevalence of diabetes and things like that, which with diabetes, COVID is very dangerous.
You're more high risk.
Yeah, much more high risk. So, I don't know if you knew this, but almost 2,000 Navajo died from COVID.
I did not know that.
Which is a huge number. Yeah. Huge tragedy. I
don't know what their population like total is, but that sounds like it's a pretty good chunk.
Yeah. Like it's awful.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Hey besties, Clarke here. I know, ads, ew, but I wanted to plug our Patreon for you guys again. Did you know that if you sign up for our Patreon at www.patreon.com/bestierebellion, you get an extra bonus episode every single month, and you also get every episode of Bestie Energy early and ad-free. We also post bloopers on there from when we film our TikTok videos and when we film our podcast episodes. It's a really good time. And we also do a Zoom meeting live every month with all of our awesome patrons if you want to join. So go head on over there, check it out. It's a good vibe. It's a good time. Thanks, besties. Bye. So the CARES Act was passed in 2020, which was passed to give aid to help with COVID. And it dedicated $714 million to the Navajo Nation to help with COVID relief. But it came with hefty restrictions, as government money does. There were delays in receiving the money.
Of course, yeah.
And then they were told it had to be spent by the end of December in 2020. They still hadn't received the money by the end of October in 2020.
Oh my gosh.
So you're like,
they're putting a time like a timeline, like a dead end on it, but they're taking forever to even give it to you.
Yeah. And like that's such a thing that totally happens with government money. Like when I used to work in nonprofit, you'd get that all the time, and it would come with all of these super hefty restrictions that were just ridiculously complicated to meet. Like there were some grants that we totally passed up because it was like meeting the restrictions is not cost effective.
Well, and it's like really not what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what I'm looking for. It's not feasible.
Yeah. It's not cost effective. It's not worthwhile. Yeah, exactly. So in response to the COVID-19 crisis, a GoFundMe was started to help the people of the Navajo Nation and the Hopi reservations. Mm-hmm. The relief fund was to help get food and aid to all of the people suffering in those communities under the pandemic. Well, the Irish got wind of it.
Okay.
And they never forgot what the Choctaw had done for them during the Great Famine.
Yeah.
By November 20th of 2020, they had collectively donated at least $3 million to the relief fund.
Wow.
Several people made donations of exactly $170.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Symbolic of the donation that was
awesome.
Given. So even though obviously the Navajo and the Hopi are not the Choctaw, sorry, I keep messing it up. They were paying it forward. They're like, we remember.
That's amazing.
And
that is a Bestie Energy story, you're right.
It is a huge Bestie Energy story. So I do have a timeline of the relationship between the Choctaw and the Irish that I would like to read out. I'm reading this directly from a website. This is not original work, but I'm reading it from choctawnation.com, which you guys should definitely go there because it has a lot of really interesting and valuable information. So we're just going to read out this timeline real quick. I just kicked the camera. I'm sorry. And I'm just going to read it out. So 1795, Spain cedes territory north of the 31st parallel, I don't know what that means, to the United States, including the territory of the Choctaw Nation. 1801, Ireland is established in effect as a colony of Great Britain. 1830, Choctaws signed the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek with the United States, ceding traditional lands in Mississippi in favor of new land in the West in the quote-unquote Indian Territory.
In favor.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
In favor of staying alive.
Yeah, no, seriously.
1831 to 1833, Choctaws immigrate to the Indian Territory. I'm reading this directly, guys. To the Indian Territory over the Trail of Tears and Death.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
1845, crops begin failing in Ireland due to infestation of pea infestans.
Wow.
1845 through 1852, over 1 million people die of starvation or from disease caused by malnutrition. Over 1 million more Irish immigrate to other countries. 1847, Choctaws collect a donation of $170, over $5,000 in today's money, with which to aid the Irish. 1848, a report on the Americans' aid to Ireland notes, the largest part was contributed by the children of the forest. I don't want to read this, but it is on the ChoctawNation.com.
What is it?
Okay. A report on the Americans' aid to Ireland notes, the largest part was contributed by the children of the forest, our red brethren of the Choctaw Nation.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. I'm not a fan of that quote.
Yeah.
1906, Choctaw tribal government is dissolved. 1907, Oklahoma becomes a state. Choctaws become citizens of the new state. 1921, most of Ireland becomes independent from Great Britain. Yeah, get it. Get it. Sorry.
Get your potatoes back. No, I'm just kidding. We were talking about potatoes.
You okay?
Yes, you're looking at me. You're the reason I'm laughing. The way you stare at me, I'm like,
make it stop. No, I think we should put that on a t-shirt. We haven't made any Bestie Energy t-shirts yet, but we promised our patrons that they would get discounts on Bestie Energy merch, so we should probably make some merch.
Yes, there are Bestie Rebellion t-shirts.
Yeah, but Bestie Rebellion is kind of a different thing.
I know,
but yeah, no.
different.
So I think we should put that on a shirt though. Get your potatoes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your independence, your potatoes. It's just symbolic is all, yeah.
Yep.
She said yep.
Yep. 1921, most of Ireland, I already read that. 1976, Congress passes a law providing for the return of Indian self-government. 1983, Choctaws enact a constitution and reestablish their government. Man, they just keep coming back. That's,
right?
Gosh.
Yeah.
Through so many things.
They will prevail.
1990, Choctaw leaders visit County Mayo, Ireland, to participate in the first annual Famine Walk, a reenactment of a walk by desperate Irish to their landlord in 1848.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing too.
Well, and very similar to like the bike ride for the Trail of Tears.
The way that they remember that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
1992, Irish visit the Choctaw Nation and participate in a trek from Mississippi to commemorate the original Trail of Tears.
Okay.
So we're just talking besties.
Yes.
We are besties.
Yes, we support each other. I love it.
1992, plaque commemorating the Choctaws' aid is installed in Mansion House, the official residence of the Lord Mayor of Dublin since 1715.
Okay.
Cool. 1995, Irish President Mary Robinson visits the Choctaw Nation tribal headquarters and thanks the Choctaws for their generosity toward the Irish.
Wow.
2017, the sculpture Kindred Spirits by Alex Pintek, commemorating the Choctaw aid and continuing friendship, dedicated in Bailick Park in, I don't know if that's Middleton or Middleton, County Cork, Ireland. I think I will find a picture of that sculpture and put it on our Instagram.
I would love that. Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah, we'll put it on our Instagram. You guys can see. 2018, Ireland's Prime Minister, or... That is a pronunciation I should have looked up.
Let me see.
That's got to be some kind of... That. I guarantee you that is not pronounced phonetically, because it's like that name like Saoirse that looks like Saoirse. Yeah. I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to spell it. Taoiseach. I don't know. Okay. I don't know, y'all. Anyway, his name is Leo Varadkar. Visits Choctaw Nation tribal headquarters and says, a few years ago on a visit to Ireland, a representative of the Choctaw Nation called your support for us a sacred memory. It is that and more. It is a sacred bond which has joined our peoples together for all time.
Wow.
2019, first recipient of Choctaw Ireland Scholarship.
Oh, wow.
Begins her studies in Ireland. So they developed a scholarship.
That's so cool.
I love this.
This is totally bestie energy. I love
it. Totally. 2020, crediting the kindness shown to them by the Choctaws in 1847, the Irish pay it forward and take up a donation to send to the Navajo and Hopi to aid them during the coronavirus pandemic.
That's amazing. Just pay it forward, right?
Absolutely, pay it forward. So one thing I wanted to say before we close this out, though, part of the reason that COVID was able to decimate the Navajo population is because of the issues that are still faced on the reservation. 1/3 of homes have substandard plumbing and kitchens and don't have bedrooms. Really? And 30% of families on the Navajo reservation are living without running water.
Oh my gosh, that's disgusting.
That's awful.
Everybody has it. Everyone should have access to running water and food and shelter. That should just be a basic human right.
That should just be a basic human right.
Generally, people should agree with that.
So I just wanted to throw this out there that if you guys want to show your own bestie energy, there is a website that I found that is called the NavajoWaterProject.org, where you can go and donate to helping bring water to the Navajo reservation.
Wow.
I myself donated $20. If you guys want to match my donation, that would be super awesome. Yeah. But this podcast is all about spreading good in the world, and I just think that would be some bestie energy right there.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna throw that out.
No, I think that's so motivating because I think we all get kind of stuck up on like what I brought up earlier of like what we've been through and things like that, and that can really affect how you treat other people. And if you take that as a way to turn it around and like make it into a positive thing and treat other people with the same understanding that they've been through things, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So it's like we really want to encourage ourselves and our followers to, we've all been through, it's like you said, we've all been through it.
Right.
Alana and I have been through a lot ourselves, just personally. And yeah, it's really, life is really what you choose to do with that.
Exactly. And it's like still recognizing that we have opportunities that other people don't. And like, we're using that to try to spread kindness and spread positivity. Yeah.
Well, and even if you don't have opportunities that other people don't, like there is always a way to to choose kindness.
Right. In like the smallest aspects, like if you're just trying to be kind to somebody like at the store, like it snowballs, like that is going to help them, and then they'll probably be kind to the next person. It really goes a long way.
Exactly. So we really want to encourage all of y'all to like embrace your bestie energy.
Embrace your bestie energy. We try to too. We have times where we're not.
Yeah, we totally fight. We got in a little bicker session here because Alana kept hitting my chair with her chair.
I know, I'm rolling a little bit to the side, so I keep trying to go back.
My floor is not level in here, which I should probably talk to somebody about. But
we'll make it do. It's fine. So
no, but yeah, so that is the story of the ongoing bond and friendship between the indigenous population of the Americas and the Irish.
That's not something I've ever heard of, and something, I don't know, I really liked that story. I think there's like a lot of other stories similar to that, I'm sure, out there that I would love to find out. So definitely leave some comments about things that you guys know, or
if there's a topic y'all want us to research, hit us up, please.
Yes.
We want to know about it because this is exciting. We're having a lot of fun with this new
we're
podcast.
Both learning so much too, teaching each other things. So thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, we love you, besties. Have a beautiful and blessed day.
Bye.
Bye.